Welcome to the Trading Sliders Podcast. Here we go. Pound the Cushion, volume number 3 for the Trading Sliders Podcast, being brought to you by RacingDirt.com. Hello, everyone. My name is Bobby Puckett. Here we are again with the latest episode of Pound the Cushion. The next few weeks, I will be out of the country on vacation, so our Pound the Cushion segment is going to be on hiatus for a couple weeks. But don't worry, the midweek slider and the Trading Sliders podcast has already been recorded and will be out every Monday morning for the next 2 weeks, just like always. But on this week's Pound the Cushion, we talked to Joseph Rush, the brainchild behind the American Racing All-Stars, as they head for a big event this weekend in the great state of Maryland. First time there at the Potomac Motor Speedway. And then with Usac being in Indiana, and it's basically the month of May. And Usac and Lost Energy Drink National Midgets at Kokomo Speedway. And then this week, the Usac National Sprint Cars make the way to Bloomington Speedway on Friday night for the Larry Rice Classic. And then Saturday night, they make the trip down to Hopstadt and Tri-State Speedway. And Drake York stops by with us and discusses that and discusses pretty much everything going on in Central Indiana racing scene. So this week's Pound the Cushion, we want to say thank you to all of our sponsors: Diesel Boys LLC, Kentucky Clutch and Performance, Speed Decals, D.O. Handyman Remodeling, JT's Trackside Catering, Bandit Race Cars, HCC Lawn Care, and RacingDirt.com. And now it's time to Pound the Cushion. It's time to Pound the Cushion, presented by RacingDirt.com. Here we go on this week's Trading Sliders Pound the Cushion. We have the man that is ultra busy all the time. My boss on certain weekends when I'm not doing other 9,000 other things. But Joseph Rush, the creator, the brainchild behind let me see if I get this right. I've been practicing the Save-A-Lot American All-Stars presented by PPM.
That's right. Glad to be on, Bobby, and excited about things that have been happening, behind the scenes for sure.
Yeah, you do a lot. Like a lot of people think, all right, American All-Star Series, they travel. It's one of the biggest pro late model schedules. You guys cover the most ground. Ultra competitive, but you got the weekly series, you got the mini wedges. I mean, you got so much stuff going on. A lot of people don't even know what all you do to begin with, do they?
No, you're right. Between that, and that's all after my full-time job of teaching. I stay super busy with that, but I love the sport and I love what we do. The mini wedge series, I think that's so big for the kids, and the weekly series, There's a lot that comes with that too, because you got to make sure the tracks have tech at least some throughout the year to keep everybody on an even field. On top of what we do, which is traveling 27 races on the schedule this season.
Yeah, before we talk about this weekend's event, and we'll let you touch on last weekend's event because you guys had a little bit of a misfortune down there, but. The schedule that you guys have, so many places. You hit Tennessee, you hit East Tennessee, you hit Virginia. You got West Virginia, Maryland, Kentucky, Indiana. I mean, you cover so much ground, and the competition in the series is second to none.
Yeah, I truly believe we have the best pro late model drivers in the country, and I think looking back, you mentioned 191, and this past weekend. You could see that a lot of these guys that travel with us had never been to the track. So in qualifying, a lot of them were mired back in the pack, and they all moved forward in their heat races. So, I think the competition that we have is definitely, as far as pro late model racing goes, second to none. And we have some of the top talents like Tyler Arrington that travel with us, up and coming stars like Ryan Smith. I mean, we got the son of the pizza man running with us, who's a East Tennessee legend. So, a lot of cool stories. Parker Perry now with us that, missed the Chili Bowl last year by one spot. So, just a really good mix and group of racers. Tyler Hoy from Virginia. I mean, I could go on and on about the guys that are racing with us full time.
So last weekend at 191 Speedway, we're going to be honest. We call things how it is. The car count probably wasn't what we wanted. but with the weather in the area and 3 rainouts and stuff going on, I mean, we still had a respectable field and we still had the talent level was there. So the show was shaping up to be really good, and we had a misfortune there at the racetrack. So how do we handle that? Is that a complete show? Is that going to be a feature, a makeup feature? I mean, so what is the series doing going forwards with that event?
Right. So, like you said, it had been 3 rainouts. I called the track last Thursday. The weatherman kills racing more than anybody now because it seems like every year the forecast just gets worse and worse on what it's actually going to do. And then Saturday morning, I woke up, it was 10 degrees warmer than it was supposed to be and no chance of rain.
Yes.
But I think people made other plans, and so like you said, Kirkhound's not quite where you wanted to be, but the track was happy with it, to have the field that we had. So as long as they're happy, that's the main thing you look for, in the end. But with the unfortunate thing with power going out, it had blown a fuse, and unfortunately they tried for an hour and a half, probably longer than we should have, but they were just so committed to trying to make it so that we could get the show in. And unfortunately, it was impossible to do there that night. So went down and I kind of just polled the drivers. I said, "Do y'all want to make this up when we come back in October?" I said, "What do y'all want to do?" And they voted to make it a completed show, so points were awarded, and they just wanted to be paid out how they were started. I mean, that's pretty much what every driver there in the field agreed on and felt like was best in that situation. So track was happy to oblige, and everybody got full payout like they run the 40 lap feature.
Well, that's good because the guys still, they still traveled, still earned their positions. One thing, and and what we do on this show, we pull the curtain back. I tell everybody the good, bad, and the ugly. The right, wrong, or indifferent. If it happened, we talk about it. Points wise for that, do you pay out points from first on back, or does everybody get show up points since we didn't run the feature? How does that work?
Since we scored it as a completed show, and this again, I took all the points members and let them vote on it. And they said, just let's do full points, just like we ran the full show too. So,
okay,
that's what the drivers voted on, and that's what we went with on it.
Well, okay, I just wanted to put that out there because I say we because I'm a part of this deal too. Even
right.
though I wasn't there to throw in a wild hair, so really confuse things. But we take pride in listening to the drivers. Right, wrong, or indifferent. If they've got a problem with us, okay, that's so be it. But we try to be as fair as we can, and our product speaks for itself. The races that we have had this year have been phenomenal. And speaking of phenomenal events, you guys are heading up north without me this weekend because I'm gonna be heading to the far southwest. But you guys are heading up north for a major event this weekend, aren't we?
Yeah, really excited about this. It really came together last October. David Williams, that has Potomac Speedway, he invited us up to come score. His score couldn't be there, and he and I just kind of we had talked to PRI the previous year, and then nothing really came of it in 25. But we went and scored for him there at the end of 25, and we just really hit it off. And I threw a crazy idea at him. We've never done a 2 complete day show. 2 shows completely at the same track on back-to-back days, but I felt like that to get the guys from down south to travel, and as you've seen, most of the majority of our southern guys are going to travel to this event. We had to make it something so that it was worth their time. A 10,000 win show is great, but this is more money overall through the field. To not everybody can win the race, and this I believe gives people the chance to run for the most money this weekend, and maximize a weekend of it instead of just doing a 1 day 10,000 win race.
And that's as a former racer and current announcer, that I go 2 ways on that. Former racer, I think it's great. Current announcer, my voice is always shot the second day because I'm a little bit louder than most people. But yes, I really I like what you guys are doing. So it's Saturday nights $5,000 to win. And Friday nights basically our standard purse, correct?
Right. Yeah. Standard 3,000 for Friday night, and then our 5K purse on Saturday. So somebody could win $8,000 on the weekend. But we hope to see it spread out a little bit, and some people share the wealth this weekend.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it, and it's a shame I can't be there, but I'm gonna keep tabs on Racing Dirt, and Richard Green there. They do a great job of broadcasting our races and making sure we're there for the fans to see. So I know we got great sponsors. Save a Lot comes on board and helps out, and PPM. I mean, you have a ton of contingency sponsors. It's not like you're just showing up and you're racing and that's it. I mean, we do drawings, we do hard chargers. So it's a series that really gives back to the driver. And that's one thing that, when you asked me to come on and help do this, I was like, my schedule is crazy, but yes, I want to because I believe in doing good for the sport, and I think what you guys in your series is good for the sport because so many times people say that's all we need, another late model series. Well, if it's done right, we need another late model series.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I feel like we try to work with what's best for the racer. We go with we have a great relationship with American Racer. I mean, $60 tire cheaper. The whole point of the 604 class to start with was, a more economical class. And I know that some things have changed to the point that we can't help, but the tires were one thing a few years ago that we were able to change, and it does help the racer, whether they want to admit it or not. In the long run, these tires last longer, and they're, $70 or $80 a tire cheaper. So I always have tried to do what's best for the racer. And sometimes maybe they don't feel like it, but long run, I am trying to watch out for the racer and do what's best for them.
And one thing that I do like, you do a bunch of fan engagement stuff. So I guess I probably should have asked you this before we came on instead of putting you on the spot. But I guess you can just tell me no. Do we have the car show, a fan engagement up there Saturday or Friday, just like we do at all the other events, or is this everybody's traveling so far? We just want to get everybody there and have our event.
So generally, we do try to go to one of the local Save-A-Lots, which our relationship is with the Houchins Food Group Save-A-Lots. So there's not a Houchins Food Group Save-A-Lot nearby. There is a Houchins Food Group Ace Hardware nearby. So we are looking at the logistics and just seeing if we can make it happen. It's not set in stone yet, but if we can make it happen, we'll definitely want to try to get the engagement going pre-race that way. And then I haven't even spoken to the track owner, David, about it yet, but, my hope is too on Friday night after the event, tell the fans, go down and meet the drivers because everybody's going to be down there working, getting ready for Saturday anyways. So I'm hoping it's something where we can have an open pit area on Friday night after the races and people can go meet the drivers, get some pictures and all that good stuff too.
All right. So Friday and Saturday, how do we pronounce this? Because how, as much as I enjoy announcing, some words I get tongue tied on. How is it? Potomac?
Yes, Potomac
Speedway. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't 100% sure. But only track I've been to in Maryland's Hagerstown, so easy for me to announce. But yeah, Potomac Speedway, Friday and Saturday. $3,000 to win on Friday, $5,000 to win on Saturday. Save-A-Lot American All-Stars presented by PPM. I promise you, not just because I work for them. This is a series that I went and watched on free nights because they have the best pro late model drivers in the country, and you never know who's going to show up. That's one good thing about our series. A few weeks ago, who in the world would have thought a kid that almost won the Tulsa Shootout trading sliders with Kyle Larson would show up in a pro late model in Central Kentucky? So you never know who's going to come through the door and compete with the best pro late model drivers in the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, he's on tour with us now. So that's somebody that you can see. I mean, and you're going to see this weekend making the trip all the way from Indiana to do battle at Potomac in Maryland. So, we're excited about that.
So we appreciate you, Joseph, coming on. And if you cannot make it out, if you're not in the area, if you're here in Central Kentucky and East Tennessee and West Virginia and Virginia, and you want to follow along, Dirt Rich TV will have you covered. And one thing that I can say about working with Dirt Rich TV, if there's any issues at all, Richard will take care of you. So, follow along and check out this week's Save-A-Lot American All-Stars presented by PPM. And then, here in a couple weeks, when I'm back in town, we'll do the full rundowns like we always do because I've got plenty of races coming up with Joseph on the road. So, Joseph, we appreciate your time and have a good weekend this weekend.
All right, Bobby, thank you so much.
On Pound the Cushion, we have the man. He's been on a couple times. He was kind of my guinea pig. Drake York, people ask me all the time, say, why you call him the face of Usac? I said, because as soon as the TV comes on, that's the comb you're seeing. That's the mug right there. But Drake York, man, thank you, sir. How you doing?
Good, Bobby. How about yourself?
I can't complain. got about 3,000 things going on the podcast of trying to schedule stuff. You know how it is, just the normal chaoticness of race season, and we're early on in this.
Yeah, I know. I feel you there. We're starting to get into the busy part of the season on the USAC tour, and Indiana in May, right? You got to think about the Indianapolis 500 too. So, yeah, we're getting into the thick of it. So all I have to say about that is about time.
It's time to have something going on every night. Did you make it out to the track today?
Yeah, I did. Was there all day for the test. Did have to do a little bit of work. Still had a USAC meeting to attend, so dashed off into the car for a moment and handled all that. But I'll be around for most of the month of May, and just the best month of the year, right?
My only complaint about the whole month of May is, which we still kind of got the night before the 500, but we don't have the night before the 500. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw IRP was doing that for the All-Star Pavement Midget Race, which that's on top of carb night. So
yeah,
So you have two great things. By the way, the Hoosier 100. So it's really three crazy cool events from the track's history coming together on one night. So I'm really excited about that. Kind of ends the USAC part of Week of Indy too. So Week of Indy is always a great time as well.
Yep. So, and speaking of great time as well, we had two events at Indiana's baddest bull ring this weekend, and I'm going to talk to you about the midgets because we wouldn't be doing our due diligence if we didn't talk about the NOS National Midget Series since you cover that, but. We had two non-wing sprint car features that we cannot gloss over. We, as race fans, we got to talk about that too. But first, we'll start with the USAC midgets. The field was I guess we could say tight all weekend. I mean, everybody was kind of in the same speed.
Yeah, it sure felt that way too. And the O'Connors do a fantastic job at Kokomo Speedway. Track was bad, fast, and like you said, it felt really tight. Like. I know we talk about how tight the USAC National Midget Field is to begin with, and there's a great reason for that. They're all fantastic drivers, and we say this every year, but the equipment's better than it was the year before. And it was a really tight field too, and so many great stories that unfolded and that we're watching throughout the 2026 season. So there was a lot going on at Kokomo. I mean, is there not?
Yeah, it's Kokomo.
Yeah, we call Indiana's baddest bull ring for a reason, but I guess we'll start with what ended up being the first night. We got rained out Saturday, and of course it was one of those deals. Unfortunately, Mother Nature thought that, or made you think that you were going to get that race in right as rain, so to speak, right before I got to the racetrack. Or actually, I was at the racetrack at Downport. So again, another big tip of the cap to the O'Connor family at Kokomo because they were able to make their schedule flexible. And we got to race twice still. Granted, not on Friday, but we got to run Saturday, Sunday. And, before we get into the meat and potatoes of everything, that was really cool of the O'Connor family. They've done that now for the last 2 years. I wish Mother Nature would play nicer at that race, but just glad we could get both of them in.
Well, I'm an old school traditionalist. Racing on Sunday night at Kokomo just feels right anyways. It should have been a Saturday, Sunday from the get-go, in my opinion. But that's just because I've spent many a Sunday nights making that 4-hour trip home from Kokomo. So I love Kokomo. Kokomo on Sunday, something just feels different about it.
Yeah, it sure does. But I guess we'll get going with Saturday night. Justin Grant was able to get the win over Zach Weigel and Jacob Denny. And Zach Weigel is a guy who was making his first USAC start since Four Crown in September at Eldora. He led the first 12 laps. And, Bobby, it kind of looked like that was going to be his race to win. And just unfortunately got bottled up in lap traffic off a turn before. We talked about the track was really good and you could go almost anywhere seemingly. And unfortunately just got tied up behind a lap car. And that's all Justin Eden got around the outside. And I talked to Justin about this too right before we got into the racing program. I'm sure he's tired of getting the question, is this the year that he finally gets that midget title? He's got the sprint car and Silver Crown titles to his name, but the midget title is the one thing that's missing. We've seen this before with Chris Wyndham back in 2020, finally able to get the Triple Crown. Also worth noting, that was also in a Chad Boat prepared car with not a drink on the side. So
Yeah,
it's got a good track record.
yeah,
For sure.
maybe
So,
maybe he's got the voodoo the voodoo dolls on the right side this time.
I think so, man, because he was so fast at Kokomo, and yeah, he won at Kokomo last year to open up the season. But as we all know, that left leg or left foot injury rather, where he broke his left foot during sprint week, kind of slowed their roll throughout the summer a little bit. So I think it was really important for him to get off to a good start. Zach Weigel, as I said, first USAC start since September, and he comes home on the podium. And Jacob Denny, we're going to talk about him more later on, but he was your hard charger. He started 19th as he blew a left rear tire in the heat race, couldn't make it back out. So he was buried. And, of course, didn't really time in all the greatest either, so that really hurt him. Really could have used that heat race win. So he started 19th. Even if this race is maybe 40 laps, I think Jacob Denny's definitely in the conversation to win. As he was bad fast, and for all the people that don't like my Dirt Draft One to Watch segment, he was my pick that night. So there you go.
First off, I'm Drake won't say this. He's too nice of a kid. If you don't like his Dirt Draft One to Watch segment, I mean, we don't like you, okay? Because that is I like it so much I stole it. I use it every race that I go to. This past weekend I was announcing at Brownstown Speedway for a super late model race, and I pulled out right before the feature. It wasn't Dirt Draft One to Watch. I used one of our series sponsors that sponsored our hot laps earlier. I said one to watch tonight is Devin Gilpin. But I gave you credit. I always say stolen from Drake York. So
I appreciate that.
Well, that's maybe why they don't like you. The people that don't like you is because you're associated with me now. So they're like, oh my God, Drake, that's who you're running with.
Maybe I think the I wouldn't say hate, but the dislike for it definitely stems from me not being very good at picking it. I mean, like, it was funny because people would give me a hard time about it. I'm like, but I gave you like 5 reasons why you should be watching him, whether it was to win the race or I think I said too during the Dirt Draft One to Watch, I said, I'm not necessarily looking for this driver to win the race tonight, but I think it's going to be a very important race or something along. I think I said he's going to go for a hard charger tonight. So I guess you can call that a win.
Yeah.
I looked up though, like 10 laps in the race, and he was in the top 10. I said, man, Jacob might make a liar out of me. He actually might win this thing.
Yeah, he's gonna win the race. One thing I want to say about Zach though, I can't never pronounce it's Waggle. Weigel. Okay, I got the Kentucky accent, so I screw stuff up. But one thing that I noticed, as the race went on, his car wasn't very maneuverable. Like he was married to the bottom. Like the couple times that he came off the bottom, he would shove the front end, especially in 3 and 4. And I kind of seen it a lap before it was happening. I was like, I think he might be in trouble here. Like just as he was catching the car, I was like, this doesn't look very promising for him.
Yeah, and unfortunately, sometimes that's the problem being out front. I would say I saw him push up maybe once or twice, but you got to remember too, no mirrors in these race cars, so Zach doesn't really know what's out there. So sometimes it's better to be running second, and Justin definitely took advantage of that. But Weigel told me he's going to run the bulk of the schedule. They're going to kind of reevaluate where they are heading into the West Coast swing, but a really fantastic start for a guy that really hasn't raced that much in the past year. Like, he had a rookie year with CBI, and he won a race at Angel Park. And then last year, he really didn't race a lot. Kind of found a midget ride here or there. Ran for Pat O'Dell at the end of the season. That was who he was driving for at Eldora, and his USAC started his last one, rather. Ran a few D2 midget races, but really didn't race that much last year. So I think he could be a sneaky guy the rest of the season if they keep up the same speed that they showed on Saturday.
And Friday night sprint car, it was good to see Robert Ballou get a win. Because for people that like him or don't like him, he's had maybe the worst luck as far as physically in the last 2 years than anyone has. So it was good to see him, turn around and get a sprint car, non-mixed, even though it wasn't USAC sanctioned, but basically it was still a USAC show this weekend at Kokomo. And just like any Friday, Saturday, Sunday in the state of Indiana, I mean, hell, Putmanville had 45 cars. So it's never a gimme in the state of Indiana anyways, but it was good to see him to finally break through.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Bobby, I think Robert called it USAC 50% or USAC light or something that night, and yeah, it was a really stacked field. I was really impressed with the cars that we got there, and we always kind of know we're going to get some good cars at Kokomo, but especially for a local support sprint car race that was the companion race for the USAC midgets. I was happy, but yeah, Robert, I mean, I think I can really only describe it now. It has terrible luck with injuries. Like, sure, some of them are racing related. Like, I remember at Calistoga in 2016, his championship defense year, and USAC was out. He was out there in a CRA race and broke his back. And then Kokomo, I want to say this was 2019, hurt his arm really bad. And let's not forget right now, too, Bobby, he is dealing with an injury on his, I believe it's his left arm, from a grinder accident at work, and he had been dealing with that, got stitches. Stitches came out at Red Hill while leading, a little less than an ideal situation, but he's honestly, this is probably one of the smaller injuries Robert's taken over his career.
Well, saying it like that, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, now that I'm actually saying it out loud to you, Bobby, I kind of think this is almost one of the lighter injuries of his career, which is insanity. But got the stitches touched up after Red Hill and had the brace at Lawrenceburg and Terre Haute. So I think Robert is in a good spot with that now. And notes at Kokomo never heard. And Robert's had a good notebook of them too. He won 3 sprint car races there last year, so we know he's going to be fast there when USAC gets to town. By a lot of accounts, probably should have won the sprint week race there last year before Briggs got him on the last lap. So I think Robert at Kokomo, when he's confident especially, is truly dangerous.
Yeah, and I agree with that 100%. And then we moved to Saturday show, which is Sunday. And Sunday show, it started off, it was just it was wild from the get-go, from hot laps to qualifying. I mean, the track had some character, had some Kokomo bite in 1 and 2, and it claimed a few guys early, didn't it?
Yeah, I have a note right here, so I'll just read you off the names that flipped in qualifying alone. Thomas Meserol was the first one. Golden Robinson was the second. The third one was Trevor Klein, and for Meserol and Klein, unfortunately, that was night done for both of those guys, which I really hate to see, especially for Tinez coming back on tour. I mean, it goes without saying he is easily one of, if not the most popular driver in the field. So really hated to see that for Thomas and the Engler operation too. They're running 2 cars with Kyle Jones, and yeah, qualifying was she was interesting. It had a little old school Kokomo flavor to it too. It was very, very technical, I think is the best way to describe it. A few character building indentations into turn number 1, and those 3 names I just listed out with Meserol, Robinson, and Klein all pretty much crashed in the same spot. And even actually when we went to heat races, Bobby, Kyle Jones, Tinez's teammate, found the same spot, went over, and then funny enough, the last flip we had was on the complete other end in turns 3 and 4. So turns 1 and 2, man, it was a little old school Kokomo, which I know the fans really don't mind. I think it's the drivers and the teams that might mind it a little bit more.
Well, yeah, I mean they're expensive hits, and not only that though, like Tinez's hit, Tinez is the old school. Hey, I'm good, I'm fine. But when it starts bouncing and you smack all 4s 4 times before you start flipping, the flip is the easy part of that crash. Your eggs are already scrambled on the 4 tires up and down pogo stick.
Yeah, and, Thomas is a very passionate guy, and no, that was a huge bummer for him. Like I said, coming back on tour this year, night 1 for the Engler team as a whole really wasn't what they had hoped for. So, I really hate to see that for Thomas, and really, and not to mention Robinson. Robinson actually was the only guy that escaped luckily from that. Talking to Bo Bender of Keith Coons, Kerbag, and Janie in the pit area, I said, how bad was it? He said it was pretty much the rear bumper and the right rear wheel, which was insane because Thomas had massive damage, Klein had massive damage. They were trying to fix Klein's car before the heat race, just kind of ran out of time and decided to throw in the towel. But really lucky escape for Colin Robinson. I'm not really sure how he did that, but I'm sure he thanked his lucky stars after that one.
I don't want to see anybody crash. I'm the type person that I love a gnarly curve. I love a cushion where I don't mind the bikes, but I don't want because I've worked on race cars. I've cut frames into. I don't like the end over end telltale. I'm not a fan of all that. I know I accept it. I understand that's part of racing. But I like how you stay professional, because I know T-Mez. You know T-Mez. Everybody watching TV knows T-Mez. You said he politely declined. That is not exactly how T-Mez did it. Just knowing that
he was actually. I'll give Thomas credit. He was very nice about it, and most of our USAC drivers aren't. And it's not like I'm some stranger walking up to Thomas, so he knew who I was, and they're mostly nice about it, and I appreciate that too, because we, like you said, we know how Thomas is, very passionate guy. So shout out to Team Ez, he's very nice to me over there.
Okay, so he did politely decline. Okay, make a liar out of me.
He very much politely declined. He said, and I quote, "No, thank you."
Yeah. well, that was politely then. Because I've seen him non-politely. So I'm a big Team Ez guy though. I like Team Ez a lot. I think the Team Ez TV thing. This is totally off subject, like I always do. But I think the Team Ez TV thing is something that really draws in. I don't want to say non-racing fans, because you have to be a racing fan, but it brings in people from other aspects, pavement racing, late model racing, because they see that and they see the sport. And he does a good job at describing what he's doing to the cars and how he's got to drive the cars different. I think he's a value to sprint car racing, midget racing in general.
Exactly, and that's most of the reason, why I'm really excited to see him back on the tour, is because he does provide that. And I'll share a personal Team Ez TV story. I know I've talked about it on your show at some point, Bobby, but really the first time outside of Tom Harris I ever learned about Briscoe stock car racing was from Thomas and his YouTube channel. So he obviously does a great job, and it's cool too, because I'm pretty involved with the Australian sprint car stuff, at least certain times of the year, right?
Yeah.
But, he went out there. Of course, I think he was just dodging me because he knew when I was showing up.
Yeah.
But he ran like right before I got there and like right after, not while I was there. So no, it's great for that stuff too. And I like Thomas's stuff, and I like the guy that he is, and I really appreciate too. I don't think this gets said enough, but I really appreciate the content he's bringing to our sport. We had him help out with some content at Lawrenceburg and Terre Haute. He was helping us out, so he did some great work. If you get a chance, go to the Usac Racing YouTube page and check out what Thomas put together. But as the driver, yes, he's such a credit to the series, right? But I think as the personality Team Ez and what he brings with Team Ez TV, man, I just love that exposure for our series, man.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm a big Team Ez guy. And I've come like full circle. Not that I didn't like him. I just kind of early Team Ez days. When he first come out here to Indiana, the old Jack Slash video days. I was like, man, I could see where people want to wring his neck, but he's grown on me, because because the value that he brings to the sport. But Saturday night, Jacob Denny, possibly the hottest name in all of midget racing. Also, congratulations, Jacob Denny, picking up his very first 410 non-wing sprint car race the week before at Circle City, and his only second non-wing sprint car start. So congratulations there. But he went on to take the win on Saturday night, and he was just he was kind of the class of the field, wasn't he?
Yeah, Gavin Miller officially led laps 1 and 2, and they sliced and diced for about the first 3 laps there. But didn't matter if I guess we really didn't get into that thick of traffic, but it didn't really matter if it was traffic or restarts. I mean, Jacob had him covered, and you mentioned it, one of the hottest names in midget racing right now, 4 Power I wins this season, and you talked about that Midwest Thunder win he had, and now he's the USAC National Points leader too. So, man, I truly think that he's going to be a championship contender. I think we knew that going in, but the 3 front runners coming out of Kokomo is Jacob Denny, Kevin Thomas Jr., and Justin Grant, and I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I think we expected all 3 of those guys to be towards the front.
And honestly, I don't think that's going to be a bad year at all either with those guys. Yeah, that's
if you want 3 guys racing for a midget championship, I can't think of a better 3, at least at the moment in midget racing. You look at how close KT's been I know he loves me harping on this fact that he hasn't. It's hard to believe, but he hasn't won a midget race since 2019. But he's been second and third more times I can count on my both hands from last year alone. And then really exciting time for that team too, bringing in the Purple Heart Foundation, something that means a lot to obviously a group of race fans, sure, but Rex Turner, one of the owners of Four Kings Racing. That's a great personal deal to him. And their other car too, Jacob Boxell. I mean, he's right in the thick of it in points too. It's his rookie season, so to speak. He's not eligible for rookie year, but rookie season we'll call it. And they've got a lot going on at Four Kings Racing, and a lot of it's in the positive direction. So and Boxell, I mentioned him too. He's fourth in points, quick time on Sunday, and really strong run in the feature event was fifth. So. You could be a sneaky one here this year. Obviously, there's still a lot of racing to go, right? But we'll have to see how it works out.
Yeah, but the USAC midgets, though. Usually, I say this, and I'm the last couple of years I've been wrong about this, but usually after Indiana Midget Week, we kind of know not really how it's going to end, but we know who the players are going to be because we get so many guys that don't run the series regularly comes in for that, so the dominoes start falling a little bit, starts trickling. But we can't with us both being sprint car fans, we cannot gloss over what happened Sunday at Kokomo. Kyle Cummins did Kyle Cummins things, so congratulations to Kyle Cummins. But the race from 2nd to 7th may have been the best sprint car race you'll ever see in the history of sprint car racing if Kyle Cummins would have just stayed home that night.
Yeah, Kyle won by nearly 7.5 seconds, which I don't think I have to explain to anybody is quite a wide margin. I mean, just absolutely destroyed the field. And we talked about how good the field was on night one. It got harder on night two as well. Like, you still had Robert. You still had Trey Osborne. Logan Seavey came to play in the sprint car that night. Cameron LaRose was there too. He's, even though not racing nearly as much with being, of course, Kyle's crew chief, he's been really fast to start off the year. And, man, there was a lot of good cars. I know Robert made the joke about USAC light or whatever. I called it USAC 3/4.
Yeah.
On Sunday night. It felt like a USAC race. So, and we know Kyle's good there. SmackDown winner, track champion. Has pretty much won about everything you can win at Kokomo in a sprint car. So the fact that they had that much speed against, again, we'll call it USAC 3/4.
Yeah, against that field.
That field was hard, man. Like, I mean, we could sit here all day talking about how many good cars were there in just the sprint car. And to win by that much, man, if I'm there, if I'm one of the USAC drivers that was racing that night, or if I'm back home watching on TV, I would be a little worried about the 3P. I mean, like we were just saying, Bobby, it wasn't a local field that he beat up on. It was pretty much a USAC race. So he didn't have it easy, too. I looked up a few laps, trying to peel my eyes away from the paddle that was like second on back. He had to work for it. There was some tough situations. He found himself in traffic one lap. For pretty much a lap straight, he had cars 3 wide in front of him. Just did what he needed to do and got it done.
Yeah, and Kokomo never disappoints. But I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and this young man didn't make the A main, but I'm gonna give you my Drake York one to watch. Sprint car wise, he's come from your area of the United States, but I think David Gasper. I think he's going to turn some heads this summer in Indiana. With the schedule that they're running, it's kind of ambitious. It's not a gimme schedule, and he was turning some pretty solid laps before he tore the catch fence down there at Kokomo Speedway.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what David can do out here. We've seen him out here in years past in the Burton car, and then was out here in the same TSR 77S. For SmackDown, and kind of had a mixed bag of a week, I think is the best way to put it. And I really hate to see that for him on Sunday night. I mean, Kokomo is not easy no matter how many times you've been there, and I think the most experienced guys will tell you that too. And that's part of the learning process, unfortunately. But the thing is, we know he can do it. We know that he can win on a USAC regional level. He's done so in CRA a number of times, and the Ultimate Sprint Car Series in California. Those guys aren't slouches either. That's good fields he's been racing against the past handful of years. So Like I said, I think if you've watched him out on the West Coast, you know he can do it. Um, but you said ambitious. I think it's exactly what he needs. Like a lot of these places he's seeing for the first time. And, there's going to be some growing pains. I think Kokomo is a great example. I think David would admit that.
Yeah.
But
And see, you just gave all my secrets. People are going to think, like, man, this guy's kind of smart. And you just told everybody, where you could have watched him. I've been watching him for about 3 or 4 years now. So I was like,
yeah, he's a great racing family he comes from too. I mean, so I know he's spent the last let's see, when was Red Hill? Red Hill was like 3 or 4 weeks ago. So he's a bit more settled in Indy now than I think he was a few weeks ago. I remember talking to him at Red Hill, and he said he had gotten most of the furniture into his new place, so he's settling in. And as somebody who has made the move, granted not by myself like David has, it's a jump and a half. It's almost a different world out here compared to going racing in California. So I think he knows that, and I think he knows it's not going to be an overnight thing. But David's one of those guys that's determined enough. I think he'll find his way to the front here before we know it.
And who knows, we might see him this weekend. As we just talked about Kokomo, and one of the best racetracks in the country. I love it, but we're going to 2 of my favorites, and I guess I've been to over 300 racetracks, and both of these are in my top 5. I love Bloomington Speedway, and Hobstadt is my favorite racetrack in the country that I've been to. So this weekend, USAC National Sprint Cars, Larry Rice Classic, easy for me to say, Larry Rice Classic there at Bloomington Speedway, and then we head down to Hobstadt this weekend. What are we expecting? Looks like the weather's going to be cool, but it looks like it's going to be dry. So it looks like we're going to have 2 pretty juiced up racetracks. Sprint cars on quarter miles with big cushions. Looks like it's going to be a good weekend there in Indiana.
Well, and you look at the history of the 2 tracks. Obviously, Bloomington's been around for over 100 years, and a pretty time-honored event with the Larry Rice Classic, and had a lot of great moments at that race over the years too. And then to get down to Hobstadt for the Spring Showdown, I think the Spring Showdown will be probably one of the more interesting races to watch. Not only from the USAC side of things, but just the whole sprint car world as a whole, Bobby, because Hobstadt's a tricky little place. It takes, like, you look at a guy like Logan Seavey or Justin Grant. I mean, they went there dozens of times before they had really even a morsel of success, much less a win. Justin especially, and now he's kind of turned that place into one of his personal ATMs. So it's a tough little racetrack. And let's not forget, too, the finale, Indiana Sprint Week, always traditionally at Tri-State. And we've seen it so many times. A guy will build up a decent advantage heading into Hobstadt. It's just not enough. I think of Logan Seavey back in 21, I believe it was, when he was driving the Baldwin Fox car, and unfortunately lost the Sprint Week title all in one race. So for that reason alone, I would say keep some tabs on this race. And when we go to Hobstadt, too, the locals always seem to have 3 or 4 guys really show out. So interested to see. And that's not to say Bloomington won't be interesting as well. We know the tracks went through some changes in the last few years. Not really sure if there's been much work done to it over the winter. I'll let you know Friday when I get to the racetrack if it looks much different.
Well, you want me? I can give you an insight on that. I'm pretty sure that the dirt has been sifted, and I think there's been a little bit done this winter. I think you might be in for a pleasant treat. From what I was told by a competitor that maybe done some work. So I'm not going to put his name out there, but I think there has been some work done in there at Bloomington Speedway.
Yeah, well, that's good to hear. And, I don't think we need to make a bigger deal than it was. But, the track wasn't to a lot of guys' liking last year. So that's good to hear that they've been doing some work. And I hope they're rewarded. Bloomington's one of the best racetracks around. If you've never been or you've never seen it before, go in the grandstands, buy a ticket, buy a pit pass, go watch us on Flow. So many great ways to enjoy a USAC sprint car race. And that's just one of the old school racing joints, right? I've mentioned it's been around for over a century, and just this little charm about it too. And it's always beautiful when we show up in the spring. So yeah, I'm really pumped to get over to Bloomington.
And one thing that I want to say about both Bloomington and Hobstadt, I've pushed them to everybody that asked me, especially when I'm down south in the late model country, and everybody says I follow along and I'm intrigued by these sprint cars. I always tell them, the 4 tracks. Like, it don't matter if it's a regular show, Midwest Thunder, USAC, but you got Bloomington, Hobstadt, Putmanville, and Kokomo. Just go. It don't matter. Just go. You'll be treated. And I can throw Circle City in there too. Circle City's Indiana's hidden gem. But just go. You'll have a great time. So hope you guys have a good weekend this weekend. And like I said, I appreciate you coming on and hanging out with us and pushing the sport as we try to get this out. Thank you for your time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always a pleasure, Bobby.